T.B.Photo X1.5 TFX, and welcome back to another video. Well, we are in our third installment of the 135mm shootout, or rather 135 budget lens shootout. And this time we're actually gonna go with our first M42 lenses. So this is made in the Soviet Union by KOMZ, spelled KOMZ. It's the Jupiter-37A, and I mean, this is a beautiful lens. I mean, it is made of metal, it's built like a tank, it's 135, but on the D7200 it becomes more like a 202mm. It has a maximum aperture of 3.5, so it's a little bit less light sensitive than the others who are 2.8s. So yeah, anyway, it's an M42 adapter, so this one is a little bit finicky on what camera type you put it on, because as I have on this a M42 or M42 to Nikon F-mount adapter, so you need to program the camera on the focus length this lens has. And since there's no metadata going back and forth, the camera won't record what aperture the lens is set at. So that would be a little bit of a difference, but you have aperture numbers here. It's 3.5, 4, then a couple of intermediates, then it's 5.6, 8, 11, and then the minimum of 22. It has a fairly close minimum focus distance of 1.2 meters, and it takes 52mm filter threads, and as I would say, the X factor for this lens is the smooth focusing and the amount of aperture blades, because this one has about twice as many aperture blades as the others in this series, because most of them has 6 aperture blades. This one has a whopping 12. So what would we call it then? I would suspect this has a great possibility to be a good video lens, since you don't have any clicks between the apertures, because the aperture ring is completely smooth and no presets, and the same goes with the focus rings, or the focus throw as I would call it. So in my opinion, it wouldn't be really good to pull focus on a stationary camera and also to change the aperture on the fly. So in that aspect, really great lens, but we will see what type of results it will yield. So anyway, this we're going to do as always. We're going to go over to Lightroom and look at the result from this lens, and as always we're going to probably I'm going to sound like Mickey Mouse or something, or the Chipmunks or Chip and Dale or anybody, any kind of character, because I know that my voice when I'm talking in Lightroom is a little bit, you know, boring, I think the term is. So we're gonna speed through that a little bit, but the maximum thing is the result this lens can yield as a still photo lens, but maybe do a little bit of a video clip as well. But anyway, as always, we are cutting to Lightroom now, so take care, see you later. Oh yes, and we're back into Lightroom, and we're gonna take a look at the orchid pictures taken with the Jupiter lens, 135mm. And full disclosure for this, how I took the pictures, I was using a tripod. It was lit by ambient light, and I used mirror up mode on the D7200, and also a remote shutter release, so that I would do minimum influence on, you know, like shake and so on, because none of these lenses have mirror image stabilization. So yeah, let's have a look at it. And this is the first picture. It is taken at ISO 100 and at f-3.5, so it's fully opened, and 1/3 of a second. So yeah, you can see here now that we have some really good ghosting on the back here, so we have a very shallow focus, or rather, yeah, shallow focus, or depth of field I should say, but still this is the part I put focus on in the camera. So, and I used I thought about using spot metering, but then I went with matrix metering. So the entire frame is taken into concern when it comes to the metering. So, but if anybody of you out there is subscribing to the Northrup's channel, Tony usually says that he usually only recommends matrix metering, because what you can do in Lightroom like so. Well, I'm not gonna bother too much with the white balance for this. Instead, I'm gonna, you see the histogram up here, I'm gonna give us a white point and a black point to start with, so I don't have to miss too much with the exposure. Give it a little bit of contrast, take down the shadows, and maybe up the highlights a bit. Yeah, as you can see, we have it out the window, and this is actually a hedge row in the back garden. The weather out here now has been atrocious. It has snowed and rained, you know, alternating between that, so that has affected the weather. So the green in the back here is some kind of bushwork or something that is green year round, but it's nice and out of focus, and you can see some bokeh orbs up here in the corner. Yeah, so we'll see here what we can do more in this picture. See clarity. Can go from this. I don't think we need to. I don't think we really need to mess with these any much, because, you know, luminance maybe a little bit, and normally this is what I would like to go for, because I really, for some reason, I like it when it is this, you know, kind of golden, or rather when it really is take it to 11. But I would say that only a little bit like so, and that would be it. Here with the this is a very powerful tool, the tone curve. So maybe you should try just do a classic F shape, and yeah, this I really like. You really have focus on this part. The rest is nice and out of focus. We don't have that much vignetting in the corners. As you can see, maybe a little bit in the downward corners, but we'll see how it goes. And I don't really see that much chromatic aberration, but we'll do like this. Yeah, I can see a little bit here, but we'll see what the tool tells us. I wouldn't really say that I see any difference, but anyway, I think this is how we are, you know. Yeah, next one. Okay, now we have same everything, except it's f4 and half a second, and I think we're gonna do the same thing, just you know, a little bit of white, a black point, a little bit of contrast. You see, we really have, if you compare the depth of field, now we have a little bit more definition around the edges of the lead flower, and you can see here we have a little bit more defined edges on the center, and yeah, we have I think a little bit less bokeh, and a little bit lighter in the corners. I think you can judge that for yourself. As you can see, if we just do this for demonstrational purposes, as you can see here in the corners, maybe a little bit of clarity and a little bit. There we go, and I really like this golden effect, because the ceiling light that is lighting this is actually old school. Yeah, it's old school light that lights the ceiling for this, so it's old school light bulbs. So we have this yellowy feel because outside it's sunlight, and that would be a bit blue, so yeah. It all has to do with white balance when you have different light sources. You have an artificial light source indoors, and out here you have sunlight, so it becomes two different types of light sources. I started to like this, you know, traditional F curve, because this here on the tonal curve, you can get really good, you know, with the contrast and so on. So I think this really, it's simple pictures, but I think they still deliver. And now we can see some detail here on the second flower. Yeah. Okay, third one. Now 1 whole second at f5.6. Everything else is the same. We can just take the view on. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, now you can see more detail right off the bat. You can see here. And all the time this is the main focusing point. Because now at f5.6 I would say the Jupiter really cleans up. Now the edges are very defined on the... all the petals on the flower here is very nice, defined. You have a very crisp edge to them. As you can see, the contrast between the front and the back one. You can see here how thin the depth of field actually is between these two flowers. So you can see this is nice and sharp, and this is still out of focus. So I would say that here your subject is basically in focus. But anyway, let's give it the same makeover, shall we? Let's see, a white point, something like that, a black point, and a little bit of contrast, darken the shadows a little bit and raise the highlights a little. Let's see how... yeah, you can see now in the edges here the bokeh orbs are still there, but we have a little bit more defined details in the background anyway. But anyway, we do something like this. Yeah. Shall we do an F curve? Why not? There we go. A little bit more shallow, something like that maybe. Yeah. Okay, next one. Okay, now we're at f8 at 3 seconds, so this kind of explains why I used mirror up mode and that I used a remote shutter release. Because otherwise this wouldn't really be that, you know, good. I think I can take down the highlights a little bit, because what I start to see now is here you see the yellow part here. This is starting to be more defined. It's the reflection in the window, but I think that also the bokeh orbs up here in the corner is also starting to become a little bit more defined. But anyway, a little bit more contrast, and we'll see what we can do. Just do like so. Yeah, now you can really see that the bokeh orbs are becoming more defined, even though we are at a smaller aperture, but the bokeh orbs are starting to become a little bit more, you know, defined. But I don't see that much of a vignetting, but we do so. A little bit of sharpening. There we go. And we'll see what we can do. So you can see this petal here. We're starting to get some aberration now at f8. We'll see what it says. Yeah, actually we're starting to get a little bit of chromatic aberration, but luckily we have this tool, and it's basically gone. And as you can see here, we have the details. This is the focus point. Yeah. It seems like this is a little bit, it has a, why the, you know, behind the focus point seem to be more in focus, because you can see the details here that is in front of this yellow spot, and this is behind the main flowers, so you can see these and this is in focus, while these details are still a bit out of focus. But anyway, let's move on, shall we? And this was just for fun. I also took one at f11 at 6 seconds. And we'll see what we can do with it. Yeah, I actually think I need to... No, we'll just take down the blacks a little bit more, as such, and the whites, such. Yeah, we still have the aberration here. Keep in mind this is a made in the USSR lens. It's an M42 mount, and I'm using it with a adapter that has some has a lens element in it, so it will be, you will have infinity focus, something like that. Now the bokeh is a little bit more pronounced. I think we start to see a little bit of edges on it, even though it's a 12 aperture blade design this, and yeah, but still, I kind of like what we are getting. So let's see. There we go. Instead of an F curve, I'm just gonna do it like this, so it's a little bit of a steeper gradient, and we'll see here now. Yep. Gone. Now we see very much detail here on the petals of the flower. Not really much that mother of pearl effect that we talked about before, but now you can see here that the back flower petals are starting to become more defined, and we're starting to see this more bokeh in the background. But anyway, this is basically how we're gonna wrap it up. I really enjoyed this lens. Quite astonishing that this old Russian lens, how good a quality it can bring to the pictures. But anyway, many of those old Russian lenses, M42 mounts, are, as we all know, relatives of Carl Zeiss designs, because the Russians got some of their factories after the Second World War, what became East Berlin or East Germany. But anyway, yeah, back to the couch then. So see you in a bit. Bye. Okay, we're back, and yeah, you have to make up your own mind what if this lens would be something for you. I think it's kind of a neat little thing, and keep in mind, a lot of Russian lenses are based on Carl Zeiss designs, since one of Carl Zeiss's plants went into what became known as the DDR after the Second World War. So yeah, that's a little bit of history behind it, so to keep in mind. But anyway, this is Tobias Bergström from T.B.Photo X1.5 to FX, and I would like to see you guys in the next video. And as always, as you're supposed to say on this YouTube malarkey, please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. So take care from now on. Bye.